Hello guys, welcome to my channel. So this is a test run because I'm going to provide a talk with the Couples for Christ. This is going to be talk number 4. It's all about loving thy neighbor and loving thy God. And for tonight, I'm going to be practicing my talk and see how long it will take for me to finish all the slide. So hopefully you will enjoy my small presentation, and this will be my first time doing it in front of the camera. So hopefully bear with me as I go through all the slides. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. So let's start. Good morning, brothers and sisters. I am Brother Terencio Mercado, and this is my family. My wife, Sis Weng Mercado, my eldest daughter, Therese Mercado, or to you, she's known as Tay, and our youngest, Rafael Mercado, which you all know by the name of Rai. We have been members of the Couples for Christ since 2019. So this year will be our 7th year as part of the Couples for Christ community. And I have been asked by Brother Alan if I would like to provide a talk, and the talk is called The Christian Ideals, Loving Thy God and Loving Thy Neighbor. And I said yes because I want to share to the community what I have learned so far in regards to what God truly wants from us regarding this topic. So hopefully you will enjoy it, guys, and let's begin. So our topic for today is the Christian ideals, loving God and loving thy neighbor. So before we begin, what is a Christian? Basically, a Christian is a follower of Christ. If you remove the word Christ from the word Christian, what letters do we have left? It's I-A-N, right? I-A-N is an abbreviation. It stands for I am nothing. So a Christian who isn't following Christ is basically nothing. Christian, without Christ, I am nothing. So to be a Christian, it means to be a follower of Christ, following all his teachings and following all the examples that he set for us. So let's go. Next is, what is the meaning of ideal? According to Webster's dictionary, the meaning of ideal is A, relating to or embodying an ideal, and B, conforming exactly to an ideal, law, or standard. So basically, the Christian standard is conforming to the standards of being a Christian. So this is what we are going to talk today in this topic. What are the standards of being a Christian? Hopefully after discussing this topic, it will be much clearer to you what is the Christian standard. But before we begin, since the topic of this video is the Christian standard, loving thy God and loving thy neighbor, what is the meaning of love? So there are 4 types of love. Number 1 is eros. Number 2 is philia. Number 3 is storge. Number 4 is agape. So if you are wondering how come these words don't sound English, well, it's because they are not English. They are Greek words. So let's start with the first one, eros. What is the meaning of eros? Eros simply means romantic love. In Greek mythology, Eros is the one with wings on his back, carrying a bow and an arrow. And whenever he shoots an arrow to a couple, they immediately fall in love. So Eros is basically where Cupid, you know Cupid, the character who is so popular whenever it's Valentine's Day. Eros basically became the model for Cupid. And then the next one, philia. Philia means friendship love. This is the kind of love we give to our friends. It's not romantic love, but it's friendship love. It doesn't involve any desire, any romance. It's simply being there for your friend. And then the next one is storge, or the familial love. This is the kind of love between siblings, between a parent and their children. So familial love is not romantic love, it's not friendship love, but it's the kind of love that is within the family. Family, familial. And then the last one is agape. Agape is sacrificial love or selfless love. This is the kind of love that we give to other people that doesn't need to be reciprocated. It means when we give this kind of love to other people, we do not want anything in return. It is some sort of a sacrifice. It is a selfless love. In other words, it's like when you do charity to other people, you help without the expectation of being helped back. So this kind of love is also called an action love because it's more than just feelings. Usually it doesn't involve any feelings at all. You just give out of your love for your neighbor. The common word for this type of love is charity. Now, this kind of love, agape, sacrificial or selfless love, this is the kind of love that we are going to talk in this topic. This is the kind of love that we apply to God and to other people when we say, love thy God and love thy neighbor. Do you see this list? What do you think is this list? I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Remember to keep holy the Lord's day. Honor thy father and thy mother. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. What are these 10 things? You're right. These are the 10 commandments. So you may ask, why did I put the 10 commandments on screen? Well, let's see, why did I put them? According to Jesus in Matthew chapter 22, verse 37 to 40, he said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the greatest and first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments." So, again, here are the 10 commandments. If we follow Jesus, that loving thy God and loving thy neighbor, these two commandments, all the law depend on these two commandments. Let's go back to the 10 commandments. If we split them into two, the first 3 commandments are about loving God. And the last 7 commandments are about loving thy neighbor. So let's go to the first 3 commandments. Loving God. So we are now the first portion of the topic, loving God. The Christian ideals, loving God. So again, here are the 3 commandments of the 10 commandments. It says here, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have strange gods before me. Basically, this is a commandment against idolatry. In the olden days, during the time of the Old Testament and the New Testament, people worship other false gods like Baal, the Greek goddess, the Egyptian gods. God said that worshiping other gods is basically idolatry, and you are not to worship them. So if you love God, you should not worship or love any other false gods. That was back in the Old Testament, and the New Testament. But today, there are false gods that people right now worships. What are they? Well, the first one is wealth and money. Some people, they worship money. They don't know it's idolatry. But when you put money above anything else, that is idolatry. And even during the time of Jesus, Jesus said back then, you cannot love God and love mammon. Mammon, when translated to English, basically means wealth. So it is true back in Jesus' days, and it's even true today. And aside from money, what else do people worship? Porn, especially among the male community. Porn is really addicting to most men, and sometimes men don't realize that they are already worshiping porn. So if you worship money and you worship porn, you're basically turning away from God. So the first commandment is about this. Stay away from worshiping false idols, like false gods, money, wealth, and porn. Now the second commandment, thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. This is a commandment about, well, taking the name of the Lord God in vain. For example, expressions such as, oh my G, you know what that means. Or for G's sake, blah 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 blah. We should not use the name of God when we're cursing, even when we are making commitments. Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. The moment that you involve God's name when you make a promise, you have to follow through of that promise because you're making God as your witness. If you make a promise using God's name and you did not follow through it, basically you're taking the God's name in vain. And number 3 commandment, remember to keep holy the Lord's day. Now this is a commandment about setting aside one day of the week to worship God. Because how do we build our relationship with God? Or not God, or let's say not with God, but with other people. You build relationship with other people when you spend time with them. And how can you build relationship with God if you don't have the time to spend with Him? So basically, you spend time. So basically, you can spend time with God by keeping holy the Lord's day. What does this mean? It means setting aside the holy day of the Lord, which is Sunday, to go to the church and worship Him. So number 3 is about setting aside one day of the week to worship God. So these 3 commandments are about loving God, and they are the first part of the 10 commandments. Now, if you go to the next slide, it says here, you shall love your God with all your heart and with all your mind, with all your soul, and with all your strength. This is the first and greatest commandment. What does it mean to say you love God with all your heart? It says here, you can love God with all your heart when you are captivated by God and you want to spend time with Him. Like I said, in order to build a relationship with God, you need to spend time with God. And you can spend time with God by going to the church every Sunday to worship Him through the Holy Mass. And even at your own home, when you set aside time to pray, that is already spending time with God. So that is how you love God with all your heart. And then, how do you love God with all your soul? What is the soul? The soul is basically what animates a person, what animates the body. When we say we put our soul into something, it means what? It means we put our passion into something. And loving God with all our soul means always involving God when it means always involving God in our passion. Do you know who this player is? This is Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. He's so good at basketball, he's actually an MVP in the NBA. And when he made a shoe deal, you know what the first thing he said? He wants this passage to be in his shoes. It says, I can do all things. This is a verse from the Bible, Philippians 4:13, and in that it says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. This is an example of how you can involve God with your passion. If your passion is playing basketball, involve God in it. If you have other passions, make sure you involve God in those passions. Next one. How do you love God with all your mind? When you seek a deep and intimate knowledge of the character and actions of God, you love God with all your mind. So just by reading the Bible, you will know what God wants, what God is, or who God is, and what He wants from us. In reading the Bible, you will have an intimate knowledge of God, and that's how you love God with all your mind, by having intimate knowledge with Him. And how do you love God with all your strength? Loving God with all your strength means living according to God's standard. What does this mean? Remember the 10 commandments that I gave you? If you follow these 10 commandments, you are basically living in God's standards. This is what He wants from us. Time, talent, and treasure. Each of us has been given by God all these three: time, talent, and treasure. So another way of fulfilling all these four, loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, is by pouring our time, talent, and treasure to God. Do you remember the parable of the talents? This is a story in the Bible that Jesus told us, wherein there are 3 servants. Each of them has been given by their master a certain amount of talent. And the master told them, I am going away. Do what you can to multiply this talent that I have given you. Now the first 2 servants, they were able to multiply the talent that the master gave them. But the 3rd servant, well, he was so scared of losing that talent, what he did, he dug a hole in the ground, put his talent there, and covered it. So when he went to the master, he said he was so afraid of losing his talent, so he did what he did. And so the master was upset with him, and what the master did was he took away his talent, and he was thrown out of the master's house. So basically, this is what will happen to us if we do not multiply the God-given talents that God gave us. And how do you multiply that God-given talent that God gave us? By putting God above all else when using these talents. We love God with all our mind, heart, and soul by keeping our mind clean and holy, free from evil and impure thoughts, free from uncharitable thoughts, free from suspicion, that estranged relationship, free from worries, knowing that God will take care of us. So all the impure thoughts, all evil thoughts, uncharitable thoughts, freeing ourselves from suspicions that will estrange our relationship with God and other people, and free from worrying, knowing that God will always take care of us. God wants us to make loving Him our highest ideal. Thus, God made it into the greatest commandment. So, loving God is our greatest commandment. Now let's go to the second part of the topic, loving your neighbor. So again, here are the 10 commandments. The last 7 commandments are loving thy neighbor. But who is your neighbor? That's the first question. Let's go back again to the last 7 commandments. What is the very first commandment of these 7 last commandments? Honor thy father and thy mother, right? Our parents is our first neighbor. That is the reason God made sure that commandment number 4 is about honoring thy father and thy mother. And also notice, among these 7 commandments, commandment number 4 is positive, while the last 6 commandments are in the negative. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, thou shalt not whatever. But number 4 is honor thy father and thy mother. Honoring your parents is the most important commandment in loving thy neighbor. Honoring your parents is so important that when Jesus spoke to the Pharisees, he admonished them for not taking care of their parents. Because there was this tradition of the Pharisees that instead of supporting their parents, they will give this portion of their money to the temple, and they will tell their parents, what I should give to you, I have already given to God. So Jesus was so mad at them that Jesus said to them, you have a fine way of rejecting the commandment of God in order to keep your tradition. For Moses said, honor your father and your mother, and he who speaks evil of father or mother, let him surely die. But if you say, if a man tells his father or his mother, what you would have gained from me is korban, that is given to God, then you no longer permit him to do anything for his father or mother. So basically, Jesus is telling them, if you have money, and instead of helping your parents, you are giving it away, even to the temple, you are basically rejecting the commandment of God of honoring your parents. Even if your intention is good, you wanted to help the temple, but in doing so, you are taking away the money that is supposed to help your parents. You then are breaking the commandment of God. And even St. Paul in Ephesians 6:1-3, this is what St. Paul told to the children. Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may be well with you and that you may live long on earth. So honoring your father and mother, according to St. Paul, is the first commandment with a promise. It is the first commandment among the last 7 commandments. I have shown you that. And it is with a promise that if you do honor your father and mother, it may be well for you and that you will live long life on earth. And our second neighbor is our own family. I will not talk much about the family because there's a separate topic for this, but I will give a short but meaningful message about our family. Fathers, the best gift that you can give to your children is by loving their mother. Same goes for the mother. The best gift that you can give to your children is by loving their father. The family is the smallest unit of the society that the church called this the domestic church. All the morality, faith, it starts with the family. The father is supposed to be the priest of the family. His task is to impart the faith to the children, and the mother's role is to nourish the family, to take care of the children and the husband. So father is the priest, the mother is the some sort of the nourisher of the family. If that makes sense. And then the next one. Members of the community or members of the church. Now, our neighbor is also the members of the community or members of the church. Now, the Couples for Christ community, our parishioner in this church, they are our neighbors. We should love them. We should treat them with respect, with dignity. And we should also offer our help to them if ever they need one. And then the next one is outside of the community or outside of the church. The best way to show to people outside of the community that we are followers of Christ is by showing them our unity. Jesus said in one of his prayers before he was crucified, I pray that they may be one, just as we are one, so that the whole world will know that you have sent me. By showing to the outside world our unity, we show to the outside world that we are followers of Christ, that we are Christians. And by doing so, we might persuade them through our action to also join our community. Sometimes action is the best preacher of the gospel, not by words but by action. And then the last one, the poor and the needy. So this is the most important one. Jesus said that the least you did good things to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. When was the last time you helped the poor and the needy? It doesn't have to be giving them a certain amount of money, especially if you don't have one. Just by doing charitable works to them, helping them. Did you see an old woman crossing down the street? Stop and try to help her. Have you seen an old couple walking up the stairs, having a hard time carrying their luggage? Help them. Do you see the poor on the street, very hungry, without anything to eat? Stop by in a store, buy something and give it to them. These small things that you're doing to them without wanting anything in return. These are small steps in following the will of Christ of loving thy neighbor. Do you remember the parable of the Good Samaritan? Well, short story. There was this man walking on a road. Then he was robbed by thieves and he was beat down. And then the first one to pass him by was a priest. And then the second one to pass him by was a Levite. And then the third one to pass him by was a Samaritan. Now, to give you brief information about these three, the priest is the one who serves in the temple. He is usually the one representing the people in behalf of God. The priest, the Jewish community. And then the Levites, these are where the priests of the temple will come from. So basically, all priests in the temple will come from the tribe of Levi. They are called Levites. And in this parable of Jesus, the priest and the Levite, they're supposed to be people of God. But what did they do? They just passed by the man that was beaten. And then there came the Good Samaritan. The Samaritans are usually frowned upon by the Jews because uh, the Samaritans are known as, although they follow God as, although they believe in God as their true God, they were also influenced by paganism. So most Jews will stay away from Samaritans because they believe that Samaritans are sinful people. But the one who helped the man, the beaten man, was a Samaritan. So the point of Jesus here is it doesn't matter what your status is in life or what other people may perceive of you. The important thing is you should extend your help to other people, especially when they need them. This is what Jesus is trying to tell us when he gave the parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, who is God's perfect model? I think it's a no-brainer. Our perfect models for loving God are Jesus and Mary. Why? Because they followed God perfectly. Jesus and Mary love God and love other people. In fact, Jesus so loved the world that he died for us. Jesus said, greater love, there is no greater love than this, to die for a friend. And Jesus died for us because he loved us. What should be our ideals as Christians? We can give our lives to pursuing good goals, that is, to better the society. But if loving God and neighbor is not our ideal, then this falls short of your purpose here on earth. Loving God and loving neighbor form the inseparable core of the Christian life. You shall love God the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the greatest commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. The whole law and the prophets depend on these two commandments. Love as Jesus loves. I give you a new commandment. Love one another as I have loved you. So you should also love one another. Am I being neighbor to others? So this is a question. And Jesus said in Matthew 25:40-45, truly I say to you, as you did it to the one of the least of these brethren, you did it to me. Then he will say to those at his left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into the eternal fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry and you gave me no food. I was thirsty and you gave me no drink. I was a stranger and you did not welcome me. Naked and you did not clothe me. Sick in prison and you did not visit me. Then they will also answer, Lord, when did we see this? Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty or naked or in prison? Then Jesus said to them, as you did it not to the one of the least of these, you did it not to me. So if you are not being good to your neighbors, you're not being good to Christ. Love one another. According to Romans 13:8-10, this is from Paul, owe no one anything except love to one another. For he who loves his neighbor has fulfilled the law. The commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not kill, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandment are summed up in this sentence. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. James said in James 2:8, if you really fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You do well. So loving thy neighbor is the royal law. And if you fulfill it, you do well. Loving God and loving thy neighbor have been likened to the vertical and horizontal part of the cross. So this is the cross. One directs upward to God, so the upward portion of the cross is your relationship to God, while the others direct us horizontally to our fellow men. So the horizontal part of the cross is our relationship to other people. So love God, love our neighbor. That's the meaning of the cross. So if ever you see the cross, you will know it's so if ever you see the cross, you will know the message it's trying to give. And that is all.